Good morning, one and all. On behalf of Navjivan Education Society's Navjivan Law College, I, Dr. Shahista Inamdar, coordinator of this virtual lecture series, welcome you all for Navjivan Law College Virtual Lecture Series Phase 1, subject Professional Ethics and Contempt of Court Law. I welcome resource person Dr. Apeksha Agrawal, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Shaista.
Yes, ma'am. We are here for day one. We are affiliated to Savitribai Phule Pune University, and for our law course, we have a subject that is professional ethics and contempt of court law. The professional ethics encompasses an ethical code governing the conduct of persons engaged in the practice of law as well as persons engaged in the legal sector. The objective of this course is acquaint the students relating to legal profession in India during ancient and modern period. Duties of the advocate as well as the provisions of Advocates Act 1961 and provisions of Contempt of Court Act 1971. The purpose behind this course is to provide and enhance practical knowledge of the students and to acquaint them with the link between theory and practice. And for this purpose, Navjivan Law College is here with this lecture series with the very first and foremost subject of professional ethics. And today, we are going to conduct the day one, which is going to deal with Contempt of Court Act. And tomorrow, for the day two of the phase one, we are going to look into Advocates Act 1961. Now, I request our principal, Dr. K.K. Dev sir, for his welcome address.
Good morning to one and all. I welcome today's resource person, Apeksha Ma'am, who has accepted our invitation to deliver her lecture today itself, and the participants who have taken their role yesterday itself and today also they are present. I am very much thankful to all the participants and the students of Navjivan Law College. By the blessings of Bade Sir and Bade Madam, we could organize this lecturer series, and we are happy that there is a good response from the students and the participants. I welcome once again each and every person, and as Dr. Saista has said that today's topic is with reference to the professional ethics and contempt of the court, and I hope tomorrow's advocate, being a tomorrow's advocate, it is a mandatory on the part of each and every participant and student to know that what is the professional ethics and the contempt of court. When you speak about the professional ethics, it says the behavior of a person in a particular profession. But we speak here about the advocate. And in 1961 Advocates Act has given us the detail with reference to the professional ethics. What should be the behavior of an advocate towards the bench, towards the client, and etc. All these things. I hope you will learn these things because it will be a part of your life in your future when you become an advocate. In the old saying, I would like to say that the profession of advocate was with reference to only maintenance of social equality, that is social justice, equality among the people. So poor people did not get the justice. So some renowned advocates have come forward to give justice to the poor people. And I would refer you a small people story that in those days, advocates never asked for the fees. There was no fees, only there was a prize money. It was only a prize money. And the client used to give the money in the back pocket of the gown. In a gown, you must see there is a pocket where the client used to. The advocate did not know what was the amount. So that was the what preferable by the ethics of the advocates to do justice to the society, to the each and every people. So I hope with this concept, most of the students will prefer for the development of the society, and I have a good lecturer from our resource person and acquire knowledge and eliminate these things in your life itself. So with these few words, I conclude my welcome speech. Thank you one and all. Please do enjoy today's lecture.
Thank you.
Now I request Pandit sir for introducing today's resource person.
Good morning, one and all. I am Makarand Pandey, Assistant Professor in Navjivan Law College. It is really privileged and it is a proud moment for me to introduce today's resource person, Apeksha Agrawal ma'am. Now, his brief introduction is like this. She has done her LLB in the year 2006 from Amravati University. She has completed her LLM from Nagpur University in the year 2008. She passed her NET in June 2012 and obtained PhD in the year 2019 from Nagpur University. She is presently acting as a PhD supervisor and 6 research scholars are doing their PhD under her. She has published research papers and book chapters on diverse areas of corporate laws and contemporary social legal issues. She is presently working on a book regarding the contempt of court. She is presently working as Associate Professor in Law, Faculty of Law at Banasthali Vidyapit, Rajasthan. Banasthali Vidyapit is one of the world's largest fully residential women's university. Now, about her past experience, she worked as a lecturer in Omkarnath Malpani Law College, Sangamner. Then she worked as a lecturer in Central India College of Law, LLM Department, Nagpur, and now she is working as Associate Professor in Banasthali Vidyapit. Now, regarding awards and recognition, she received Best Paper Award for paper presented in Second International Conference on Engineering, Technology and Management for the Sustainable Development organized by IIMT Engineering College, Meerut during 26th and 27th May 2020. She delivered various lectures and conducted sessions on legal issues, legal aspects. Then she delivered talk on women and customs in society. She delivered talk on environmental laws. She delivered keynote address on constitutional rights of citizens on the occasion of Constitution Day celebrated in Nagpur University. She is a life member of Indian Association for Women's Studies and member of Indian Law Institute, New Delhi. She participated in WTO Public Forum 2013 on expanding trade through innovation and the digital economy at Geneva, Switzerland in October 2013. She is Academic Council member, Banasthali Vidyapit. She is Internship and Placement Coordinator at Faculty of Law, Banasthali Vidyapit, and she is a member of the Syllabus Developing Committee of LLB and BA LLB Integrated Law courses in Banasthali Vidyapit. She has done his coordinator work as a coordinator of the Interdisciplinary National Seminar on Moral and Ethical Issues in Legal Profession organized by Faculty of Law, Banasthali Vidyapit in the year 2019. She organized various seminars, national, international level, in the capacity of the organizing member. She presented a paper in Second International Conference on Engineering Technology at Meerut. She participated in an international webinar in Nagpur on 21st to 23rd of May 2020. She presented a paper in International Conference on Personal Finance for Indian Women's Banasthali Vidyapith in the year 2016. Then she presented a paper in international seminar at Kheri, Uttar Pradesh in the 2015. She presented papers at various national and international conferences in various cities, including India and foreign abroad. Then she participated in author workshop jointly organized by Springer Nature and Banasthali Vidyapith on 15th of January 2019. She participated in national seminar on expanding horizons of business law, future challenges organized by University of Pune in February 2010. So this is which I have read a very brief biodata. Her hobbies includes reading, traveling, and photography also. So a very versatile personality is with us today. As a resource person, I now request Agrawal Madam to guide our students and participants. Thank you. Up to you, Madam.
Thank you so much, Makarand Pandey sir. This was not a brief, actually, it's too much elaborate introduction. So I guess a lot of things you have spoken. Thank you so much for this. I guess Shahista, we should start doing that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. It's visible, ma'am.
So I request the participants to please keep your mics off so that there won't be an echo and the other sort of disturbances. Because right now I'm the only able to see my screen. I won't be able to see that whose mic is off or anything. But the discussion what we are having today is about the contempt law. The list of participants what I received from Shahista and the background of this concept of having the lecture series, I believe that this is with the point of view of the learners of the law and those who want to see what is happening in the diversified areas of the law. Yes, as rightly introduced by respected principal sir, that professional ethics is one of the such portion or one of the clinical paper, I believe, which law courses has kept as the part of the study, has its own relevance. So when we think of professional ethics, a person when enters into a legal profession, this is the only profession I found that wherein the code of conduct or ethical rules for the professional life are specifically stated. They are written down and they are taught, and it is expected from the practitioner or those whoever are the part of this fraternity that they should abide by, and somewhere they should keep in their mind all these principles when they pursue their profession. So what topic has been given to me is one of the inseparable part of this subject, professional ethics, and what we are trying to get today is an overview about the Contempt of Court Act. Contempt law. I usually start telling my students when I teach the contempt of court law that what do you think that what is the importance of a fear in a person's mind? Is that fear is good? Is that fear is bad? Definitely the degree of fear will make or create a different sort of impact of that fear in the person's mind.
Hello? Kajal?
Is that I'm audible, Shaista?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Miss Kajal, kindly mute yourself. Miss Kajal, yes. Yes, ma'am, you can continue, ma'am.
Okay. So usually I start asking this question to my students that what is the importance of a fear for a person or for a human being? Is it required? Exactly if you get that answer, I guess you will able to understand the relevance of the contempt of court law in a legal setup. Because in past few days, specifically when we are little bit free from our day-to-day assignments during this lockdown period, so many incidents happen in the past that the law which is not usually that much discussed, it remain in discussion for everyone. Incidences happen in this way in this domain of contempt law. So the topic or there is a need that a common person besides a law person should also require to understand this law. I'll start my discussion with some of the instances or the incidences those happen in the recent past. And then I'll go to the overall idea of the Contempt of Court Act. Because these incidences, I believe, they have actually created an curiosity in the common man's mind that what is this law of contempt? Is that courts are so supreme? Is that the courts are having so much dominance on our day-to-day life that we have to think twice, thrice before we speak anything or before we say anything? The incidents, I found it very interesting and worth sharing over here is the very celebrated decision of the Ayodhya case. When the matter was before the court, we all heard that it remained into discussion besides its sensibility and the sensitiveness for one more reason. The council who represented the Muslim parties, means the Babri Masjid the party, those who are represented, Advocate Rajiv Dhawan. So he got lot of threat messages, lot of SMS, WhatsApp messages. And one such message he received and for which he has taken serious cognizance. He complained it to the Supreme Court and what happened, the Supreme Court has literally taken action against those WhatsApp messages which have been written by one very old man situated somewhere in the Kerala. And the court directed it that certain sort of interference or any sort of pressure tactics used against the councils of the parties in any matter can be considered as an interference in the process of administration of justice itself. Believing it to be so, the court asked the person to seek the apology. Otherwise, contempt action will be initiated against him. This is the incidence.
Ma'am, Apeksha ma'am, actually,
Yes.
what happens is, when I was explaining my students also,
Mhm.
we had for Prashant Bhushan case, sorry to interrupt you, but when we had a discussion and a legal debate was going on with my students, so
Mhm.
many of they said that when we are having freedom of speech and expression,
Mhm.
so it is a fundamental right wherein we should have a right that we can speak freely. Then why
Yes.
this? Yeah. So we just want to, have wisdom of words from you regarding this thing also. That whenever there is a dispute between freedom of speech and expression, and on the other
Mhm.
hand, contempt of court comes.
Yeah, sure. I guess
Okay.
the thought what I have kept and what I have made my mind to be shared with all these audience is in that direction only. And I hope by the end of
Yes,
this lecture you will able to get the answer.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
है ना? Okay. So this is one incident that I have. It has keenly sought the attention of the people, and then, as Ma'am has rightly stated, some tweets which are made by Mr. Prashant Bhushan very recently. So his tweets has remained into discussion when he made some stringent remarks on the honorable Supreme Court Chief Justice of Supreme Court for one of the pictures which got viral of the motorbike he has been riding off, and during the pandemic period without using the mask and the helmet and all those things. So what is that if somebody is using a social media platform, is that he is not able to specify his fundamental right of speech and expression and all this? So these are this question as you everybody is thinking of this, somewhere they are answered. So if you see the judgment which is given by the court in Mr. Prashant Bhushan's case, which is shared, I have one of the certain cuttings or the portions of one of the famous magazine of Bar and Bench. So the court has very typically gave an opportunity that Mr. Prashant Bhushan should seek apology. But we all know that what overall scenario or how the incidents happen and all those things. But to mark his action, the court has given fine of rupees 1 as a charge and specified that the matter amounts to contempt. Then is the incidence of famous actress Swara Bhaskar. You must have heard about this incident even, wherein on some public platform she has expressed her personal views on the incidents or the what is some political opinion she has sought, which I have intentionally I have not shared herein, but you can easily get those speeches or that portion of speech which she has given on the public platform. Again, the question was raised on her expression that way. But this action was not taken. That means the action of contempt of court was not taken against Swara Bhaskar. The court has means before going to the court, as the procedure itself says, that it should be initiated. The contempt action should get the sanction of the Attorney General or the Advocate General of India. So Mr. Venugopal has declined to give the consent for that matter, and it is considered to be her personal remark. It has nothing to do with that contempt of court as such. So this is one thing. Again, the another incidents which remain and attracted the attention of the people for this law is the remarks given by one of the famous stand-up comedian, which all of us know. I guess all of you can recognize is Kunal Khanna. So certain remarks what he has given in on his Twitter handle are like these. And these are the remarks which Kunal Kamra has made. And for that matter, the contempt action was in question to be initiated or not, or like this. So again, Mr. Venugopal has given an consent to take action of contempt of court against him. And what is happening is something we will keep that thing aside. But the question, as Ma'am Shahista has stated, and which is everybody's mind, that what about your freedom of speech and expression? What is that thing? If all these incidences, and when the people are becoming so much vocal, they are trying to express themselves in this medium of technology, wherein different sources of your expression or platforms for expressing yourself are available. You want to express yourself on the Facebooks, you want to express yourself Twitter and various other places. If even if you are not concerned with the topic, we want to give our opinion on that. So is that we are not allowed to talk? Because when we say and when we think of all these incidences, it literally creates a question mark in our mind. So obviously, after seeing these incidences, the obvious question which comes to us is, what is the object of contempt of court act? Do we literally need it? Why we need it? So to understand this object, we should know, first of all, what the law is. So I'll try to give a brief overview, first of all, and I will again ask this question, that whether the object which is stated in the law is served or not. And I hope you will able to get the answer to your questions by the end of this discussion. So when we see the contempt law, its evolution actually happened in India because of Britishers. Because in ancient India, if you see the contempt law, as such, there is no contempt legislation available, because in our indigenous legal system, we consider the king as the sovereign. The law is supreme and sovereign to all. Even in that phase of time, violation of the sanctity of this system, administration of justice system, used to attract the penalties. The only thing is that this system or the legal system used to function through the king, and they used to function through the appointed judges or delegated counselors in that way. But what we realize is that the existing or the present law of contempt is based on the English law. It is the gift of Britishers which has been there with us. So when you see the history part, we are not going to get into the details of that. It's very haphazard way it has been introduced to India. The idea of contempt was properly introduced by them with the thought or with the concept of court of records. So in England, the court of records used to have this inherent power to punish the people for their contempt. Not only for their contempt, for the courts which are subordinate to them as well. And as our legal system has been somewhere having the reflection and the introduction by the Britishers only, so obviously we have taken some of the core principles of them, and that too we even recognize our highest courts, that is Supreme Court and the High Courts, as the court of record. But what is this court of record? So court of record is that very particular thing which we everybody know. For that matter, we call Supreme Court and the High Court as the court of record, because every proceedings happening before them, they have been recorded and they are used as the evidence for the future references. It has evidentiary value, and that more than this, the courts, these courts have inherent power to punish the people for their contempt. So even if we do not take the basis of any legislation like Contempt of Court Act, we find that the authority to punish for the contempt has been there. It's already there, given to the Supreme Court and the High Court with this thought of court of record. The present law of contempt is, as I stated earlier, is the implication of the legal system which has been coming from the English law. So on the basis of a lot of happenings, even before the 1971 Act, as you can see, there was Contempt of Court Act. But the law of contempt, what we are applying today is the Contempt of Court Act 1971. And even it is under a scanner. Even Law Commission has presented the review of a report of this Contempt of Court Act, and certain amendments, if they get approval and like this, specifically in Section 2 of the Contempt of Court Act, they are into pipeline. They are under discussion. So this is how we got the Contempt of Court law, or the law of contempt, which has the basis of constitution, which has its own specified statute known as Contempt of Court Act 1971, which is generally applied to all of us. Is that this statute defines contempt? So answer is yes. But to what extent it is serving the purpose is again a disputed part. Because as I said, in the Law Commission's report, the definition is itself under review. But if you see the definition of the contempt, you will see that in Section 2, subclause A of the Contempt of Court Act, it has plainly stated to be the contempt of court means civil and criminal contempt. What answer you get after seeing this definition? That again it takes you to the further definitions to understand civil contempt and criminal contempt. Friends, we usually ignore this part, but lot of queries and lot of answers of us are answered in these definitions. As we said, contempt for us means and includes civil and criminal contempt. So what is mean by civil contempt? It's a willful disobedience to any sort of direction issued by the court, any sort of. But what is the fundamental thought, or what is the idea? Is that you have been disobeying, you are making disregard to the court's any direction order. As I started with this lecture with the thought of fear, some of you might agree with me on this fact that how many of us follow the instruction of our teacher, of our parents or our elders if we are not afraid of them? So in that way, if you think of, don't you say that fear is good? And these are the provisions, they are not actually created for the sake of creating or giving a dominance or superiority to any institution or any person as say. So the mere idea is seeking the obedience, of the people to the court's order, or wherein it is found that the undertaking, the submissions what you have made to the court are fraudulent. You are cheating, you are lying to the court, you are making breach of undertakings willfully. So this is a thought. It is specified in the contempt of court. If you see the definition of civil contempt, which is a major portion, or wherein you can say majority of the contempt actions or suits lie in this area. Civil contempt, which implies willful disobedience to the judgment, decree, direction of the courts, or willful undertaking, breach of undertaking given to the courts. Then comes the another part of the definition, which says that contempt of court even means criminal contempt. I don't find if Shaista ma'am will agree or disagree on me, I don't know. But why the names are civil and criminal contempt has been given, they has nothing to do with the literal. I would like to get some opinion of Shaista ma'am also dealing with the subject since past few years. But what criminal contempt is stating, in the first part of civil contempt, you said it's a specifically disobedience to the court order. But in the second part, there are different kind of activities are questioned or pointed in the head of contempt. If you make any sort of publication by any means, because nowadays there are different means of communication available, wherein different platform or different ways a person can pass on his thought to the others, can make it public. And that's why publication has been uh, given a wider connotation in this meaning to include all sort of publications by any medium or any ways, or doing any other act, not only publication, or if you do any other act. But the result of such publication should be this. It's not that anything you are writing or publishing is subjected under the law of contempt. So the thought is that the result of your publication or any act what you have done should be any of these three. Either it has resulted into lowering the authority of the court, or you have interfered in the judicial proceedings in any way, or you have interfered or obstructed the administration of justice in any way. If you see these three clauses, what you find is that the gravity of the offense or the result is increasing. Initially, if you have done something which has lowered the authority of the court, you have then interfered in the court proceedings, judicial proceedings, and then in the administration of justice. So the definition is very typical, seems to be little elaborate, but very important to understand the very soul of the contempt law. What is that test? What is that fundamental idea on which then we are deciding that whether an act should be considered as a contemptuous or not? Because we have to answer a lot of our questions which are obviously coming in our mind, that it is curtailing our right to life, it is curtailing our freedom of speech and expression and all those things. So that matter, what is coming up if you make a gist of these two definitions is the core thought of interference in the administration of justice. Is the core thought. A particular action, whether it is literally interfering or obstructing this administration of justice, this should be and deciding or determining test for the sake of counting that act on the scale of contempt of court law? Does it makes an interference? And for that matter, what is administration of justice? Friends, we know this fact that administration of justice is not a very narrow or a particular term which will include the interference in the judicial proceedings only. Does it? Obviously no. So administration of justice is not confined or limited to the functioning of the court and the judges only. A action to be questioned under the law of contempt is required to be seen on this test of fact that act has anyway interfered or literally made any hurdle, created any obstruction in the performance of this process. So this process can happen on with some adjudicatory bodies or other mechanism or functioning of other administrative organs. And that's the reason why in the Rajiv Dhawan's case, what we have shared in the Ayodhya matter, threatening messages to counsel of one of the parties to the litigation is even considered to be the interference in the court of justice. So this is the idea, or this is the core understanding of the concept of contempt of court that is stated in the contempt law. And hence, if this is the meaning, procedure also remain in debate and discussion. Because if you see, it's interesting for the fact that the law do not provide as such any procedure for the conducting the contempt proceedings, which on the other hand gives a wider power to the courts to decide themselves that what process they are going to adopt, which is most of the time in question. And that's why it's said to be sometime it becomes an arbitrary on the part of the court that anyway they can take and initiate the proceedings, or it's a complete authority, no statutory procedure as such prescribed on that matter. But this is even specified in the Contempt of Court Act under Section 10, which gives an authority to the high courts to exercise this jurisdiction for themselves, for the contempt of themselves, and for the contempt of any of the subordinate courts under them. Obviously, Contempt of Court Act is not the only legislation. So even the subordinate courts have been given the authority to question such disrespectful acts, disregard, disobedience to their orders in the chapter of Indian Penal Code, Chapter 10. So that's why you will find separate provisions have been made wherein authority to the public servant has been given for the sake of initiating action for their disobedience or contempt, what we call. So there is, as such, we don't find any unreasonability in the process, because the procedure is of the summary nature, wherein the cognizance for the action of contempt can be taken not only by the Supreme Court or High Court, being the superior Supreme Courts or superior courts as such, but even the authority is given to the subordinate courts. This action of contempt, the limitation period as Act provides for is of 1 year. And who could be the parties? is that anyone who is feeling of that this act is contemptuous or this act should be questioned in the law as the contemptuous or that way. No, the person has this right to decide that whether an act should be considered as contemptuous or not. It's the only and only authority of the court. It's the only the court, and that's why private individuals have even to seek the permission. They have to initiate their contempt petitions through a proper channel, means through the Attorney General of India, Advocate General of India, like this. So even these barriers are created, these filters are created to avoid unnecessary or unreasonable use of the provisions like this. Punishment part is important to understand here in that. If you see the provisions related to punishment, you will find the provisions are very minimal. If you feel so much is the gravity or the seriousness of the act that it's a sort of creation of interference or disturbing the process of administration of justice, so person should be punished very stringently in that matter. Friends, the object of the law is not giving anyone dominance, superiority, but is the thought that people should abide the law, not the person who is laying down the law. Section 30, that's why it's a very beautifully drafted and kept in the legislation that matter, which creates a cautionary note for the courts that the court should not think that it is an weapon or the authority given to them. And that matter, apology is considered as one of the biggest relief or biggest consideration in the matters of contempt. Consideration of apology has to be always there while deciding the punishments or charging anyone finally with the contempt of court. We do not want to create a parallel mechanism or the separate suits and for that matter under this law of contempt. This is the idea, which is sometimes missed by the court, which is sometimes missed by the judiciary. And that is the line, or that is where we find that is that application or the use of the law is happening in the right way or not. If you think of remedies even, apology is considered to be the one of the highest reliefs in the law of contempt. If the court finds that the person who is seeking apology has been genuinely and sincerely feeling the regret for the action he has committed and like this. So it's a sincere apology is always required to be considered by the court in the matters of contempt. Obviously, the mechanism for appeal is created and that things, but apology has always sought attraction of this law of contempt. Now come to this question. The question which remains in everyone's mind. Is that law contempt curtailing our constitutional right? Is this contempt of court act, the provisions, or that way what authority the courts are getting, the judges are getting, will create an arbitrariness somewhere in their mind and inferiority in the mind of the others. So the source of this law obviously lies in the constitution. It's not an unconstitutional legislation as such because of the some of the logics, wherein first of all the subjects of the contempt and the making the law on the topic of contempt is specifically stated to be the power and the authority of the central government as well as the state government on some parts, because the mention of this area or this subject is there in the union list and in the concurrent list as well. Not only this, Article 129 and Article 215 of the Constitution of India, they give specific power, as we stated that why these courts are considered to be, how come they are treated to be the court of record. These are the articles which gives Supreme Court and High Court respectively the inherent, the core powers to deal with the matter or the cases of contempt. The Parliament has this power to make the laws on the contempt of court, but in any way, this power cannot curtail the authority given to the superior court. And that is been considered in section 22 of the act itself, because the two authorities or the two sources of power which are going to the high courts or the Supreme Court, they are not clashing as such. There is no clash of authority. Parallelly, these powers are coming to the courts from the the constitutional law as well as the Advocates Act. And obviously, the Supreme Court has much more wider power under the Article 142 even, wherein this power to investigate and punish for its contempt is given in Article 142 exclusively. So, if this logic or this basis of constitutional authority is there in the backdrop of the law of contempt, can we say that it is violating your freedom of speech and expression? Can we even say that? So, more or less, what is this Article 19(1)(a)? Yes, it gives you freedom of speech and expression, but can we say that it is absolute one? So the answer lies if you see Article 19 subclause 2. Answer lies in the clause. If you see that subclause 2 of Article 19, it gives a wider authority to the state, wherein state can make any law for imposing restrictions, for imposing reasonable restrictions on any of your rights, on exercise of any of your freedoms, if the questions are going in contrary to the interest of sovereignty, friendly relations with the foreign state, public order, and specifically in relation to the contempt of court. So the subject of contempt of court has been itself specifically considered to be one of the ground for imposing reasonable restrictions. And what is that logic? The idea is simply that there should be the rule of law, not rule of a person or the institution in person as such. Because in the whole idea of rule of law, there has to be the dominance of law. People should abide by the law and they should follow the law, which is equally good for all. And this is the core thought which is reflected in this constitutional provision which answers to us that this law is not going to limit your freedom of speech and expression. It's not, because in these, and there are so many cases wherein the court's authority to exercise this contempt provisions is required to be used with the note of caution that it should not be used arbitrarily, but on parallel lines. As a citizen, even one should think of your freedoms are not absolute. What implication your actions are doing, it's always required to be considered in the backdrop of this fact that surveillance and the presence of a institution known as court, judiciary is equally important for the balance and well-being of a healthy society. If this is the situation, if this is the stand, I would like to ask this question to the audience or the participants present over here, that what is the law of the contempt? Can we say that the law of contempt is giving an anarchical or arbitrary powers to the court? The law is curtailing your freedoms all the time, and that's why we should set aside, we should repeal this law. Is it so? Now, I have briefly kept my understanding about the law to you people, and I'm open for discussion from your part if I have not answered your questions as such. Please.
So the floor is open for question answer sessions. Any student?
Shaista, is that I
Yes, ma'am.
answered your question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So this was the question which generally my students ask me.
Yes, this is an obvious
yeah.
thing which is coming up.
Yes, yes, ma'am. So any of the participants who want to ask any question? Anyone who would like to ask any questions?
Yes, ma'am. Shaista, ma'am. This is Asmita here.
Yes.
Yes,
Good afternoon, ma'am.
good afternoon.
Ma'am, as you rightly said that Article 19A, 1A, the rights are not absolute. Yes, I very well agree with this, and I have to agree. There is no option, rather.
No, you have options. You have all the options, and we are open for your options.
Ma'am, what I think, this is my personal opinion.
Yes.
When as time passes, every society must come up with certain changes. And this law, as you very rightly you have stated earlier, that it has its origin from the English law. But we should also take in consideration, we should see that whether in other countries this contempt of court law, is it revoked again and again or not? And to what extent we are still sticking to the same old things. Also, when we see certain case laws, for instance, when we see the very current one, like Prashant Bhushan sir's tweets, and if we consider the case law in the past of P.N. Duda, who happened to be the law minister once upon a time. So if we look at the decisions or the judgments which came upon, we find a great difference in terms of the judgments given. Like when P.N. Duda, he was given a clean sheet, I would say, and whereas Mr. Prashant Bhushan, he was charged with a fine. Though the fine was only of rupee 1, still he was charged with it. So I see when a person is having certain political affiliations, like many times we see that they don't have to face certain proceedings, or even if it is been proceeded, they are like easily given a clean sheet. So is that affecting? I see that it is affecting our judiciary, and how now we can say that our judiciary is being impartial in terms of this law.
So the example of Prashant Bhushan itself, what lot of political incidences and happenings happen in that case before the matter went up to the court. I guess Asmita, it's the whole chain of incidences happen itself created a question on the existence of law. But just because the law has been has been gifted, or it has been coming from the Britishers, it's now been repealed by the English law. In that their system, it has been repealed. Literally, can we say that this is the right time in our democracy, and we are mature enough to deal with the situations wherein we are sensibly handling our responsibilities? We are taking care of our responsibilities so that we don't require any legislation or any authority over us to question or to check our actions. Can we say that the system and we ourselves as a part of systems are so much matured that we are fulfilling all those things, all the requirements, our responsibilities, and that even in that way, can we call or say that our democracy is mature enough to handle or take up the situation like this, wherein we should repeal and give absolute freedoms to the people? So there may be a point wherein you can state it that in future, I guess, but right now, it's I don't personally think of that the right time has came. But yes, you have a point in that part that lot of incidences and lot of places it seems to have been considered to be the ego issues, even on the part of judges, when the application of the law or the provisions is application of contempt of court provisions is seen.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Any other
Yes.
questions? Yes.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay.
Hello, Shahista, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, can I ask another question?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Asmita.
Ma'am, in recent scenario, like where the hearings are going on virtual basis, what would amount to contempt of court? Like any new provisions have come upon, or like seeing the like recent scenario where there had been an incident, the judge had called the advocate, and he said, "Who's this calling, and why are you asking me so many questions?" Because he didn't know. It is the judge himself. So, are there any like new rules now which have been embedded, or which would come upon?
I don't think in the there are any specifically rules made in and that to become drafted and properly they are stated to be shared as in addition to the law what is there and to the contempt of court. But if you see the definition and the provisions of the Contempt of Court Act, they are wider enough to consider all these incidences. Even you have heard of one incident wherein one counsel has appeared before the High Court hearings of the High Court in a very casual, informal dress, and the court has literally pointed him out and raised a serious concern on the actions by the lawyers like this. So it's not that for each simple and smaller acts the rules and the finer rules are specified or required. If you require to have the rules on these simple logical things, definitely it's not a right time that the provisions of the contempt law or the law as such should be repealed or set aside. So we are not mature. I guess your second question itself is answering to your first question. Again, giving a logic that why we need the law like this, which somewhere acts as a fear factor. Some
Yes,
sort of,
ma'am, indeed.
yes.
Thank
That's
you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
okay.
Yes. So, for coming to an end
Somebody
for the
returns
first session,
something.
yeah, there was one question from Ankita Sonar that whether tweet made by Prashant Bhushan, whether it amounts to contempt.
Yes, it amounted to, and that's why 1 rupee is fine. The nominal, but representation sort of things has been made. Yes, it considered to be the contempt of court.
Yeah. So, Nivedita Ufade,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, please propose vote
So
of
good,
thanks.
good
Ma'am,
afternoon.
Yeah.
ma'am, good afternoon. Sorry, I missed out. Actually, I also have a question. Like
Mhm.
you said, the court of records have the power to punish for contempt of itself and the subordinate courts, and this concept has been borrowed from the Britishers, right? So now, what are the other developed nations doing for with regards to contempt of court? Matlab, are they penalizing their advocates like US or some other nations which are developed nations? So what they are doing, ma'am? Just wanted to know on that.
Is that your question? Is for the other nations what they are doing? They are. I'm not clear. Can you specify this, Mubin?
Sure, ma'am.
Just
Sure, ma'am.
need to- Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Ma'am, see, this concept has been taken from the Britishers, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. Okay, you have the power to punish for the courts have the power, the courts being the record because their records are permanent in nature and they are used for referral purposes. So that's the
Mhm.
reason they're court of records, right? Now,
Hmm.
this is being followed in UK. Now, what are
Hmm.
the other nations following? Means, if we discuss whether this law is relevant in today's context or not, we also have to consider what other developed nations are doing. So, what
Mhm.
other developed nations are following? Are they punishing their advocates for the contempt?
Obviously, in recent past, we found that, as I said, even answering Asmitha's question, the law or the provisions as to the contempt there has been repealed
Okay.
therein.
Yeah.
But for us, is it a right time that we should negate and say no, we should make ourselves free to that extent? So that is what I believe. It's not a right time that absolute freedom has to be given.
Okay. But
So it may be advocates, it may be anyone. It's not about anybody's remark we should consider. Or just because the person is advocate, he gets a right to speak anything. Just because a person is a judicial officer or a person is anyway, whatever he is of, any standing in that way, he because of his position or the designation, he should not get an authority to speak anything for anyway. What impact of your expression or what impact of your communication is making on the public at large and the whole system as such, it should be seen. This is the core thought, I guess, and the core idea behind punishing for the contempt, maybe.
right, ma'am, and that freedom of expression, it is not absolute. That is what you have clarified.
Right.
So now it is clear, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess Nivedita has some questions she was like asking.
No, Nivedita is for proposing vote of thanks.
Okay.
Yes, Nivedita.
Yeah, ma'am. So, yeah, ma'am, thanks for the being patient for our questions. So here I am today. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Nivedita Ufadi, third year law student from Navjivan Law College, Nasik, here to present vote of thanks. So saying thank you, all it takes to express the gratitude infinitely, right? So it is my proud privilege to propose my vote of thanks to our guest speaker, Dr. Apeksha Agarwal, ma'am, Faculty of Law from Banasthali Vidyapith, Rajasthan. Thank you, ma'am, for joining and enlightening us with the deep insights and value addition for today's topic, contempt of law in the present context. The
Thank you.
session was truly full of knowledge. Yeah, where you initiated with the fear factor, the interference of the court proceedings, the incidence of Ayodhya case, cautionary note, and even the importance of sincere apology. This keeps us thinking whether object of law of contempt is served or not. Definitely, the insights will help us, the participants and the students for their future studies and practice. So once again, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for providing us those insights and taking time out for your busy schedule. Thank you very much. I would also like to express gratitude towards our principal, Dr. K. Dev sir, for allowing us to organize the knowledge sharing session and convert the challenge, even the pandemic challenge, to the opportunity. I also would like to acknowledge and thanks our teacher, Dr. Shahista Inamdar ma'am, for encouraging and always being supporting to the students and organizing and bringing the global expertise under one platform so as to nurture the knowledge further. Thank you, ma'am, Makarand Pandey sir, coordinators, supporting staff, students, participants for joining today's session and showcasing the eager for active learning. Thank you. Be tuned for tomorrow's session, day 2, with virtual series of Navjivan Law College, Nasik. Thank you.
Even I would like to thank you before we end up this. I guess finally you have concluded, and then I must sincerely make a thanks to the Navjivan Law College, to Principal Bade sir, all the staff members, all the faculty members, and all wonderful participants for your patient hearing and for having such an friendly interaction to that way. So I thoroughly enjoyed this discussion in the morning. Thank you so much. See you in person sometime in future. Thank you.
Surely, ma'am. Thank you so much. So now I expect kindly mute yourself, everyone, and kindly on your videos so that we can have a group photograph. Kindly on your videos and please mute yourself so that we can have a group photograph, virtual photograph for the session day 1. Yes, Dipti Deshpande, kindly take the photograph. Everyone, kindly on your videos so that we can have a virtual photograph. Everyone, be ready. Say cheese. And here we go. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Taken photos.
Okay, great. So, thank you one and all. And we will be meeting tomorrow at the same time at 11 o'clock for our next program. Stay tuned. See you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, ma'am.